Well, in our part of Minnesota, we're back at it again after over 2 inches of rain, 2.3 inches. This field here, we're taking out a particular corn hybrid. It's called 0075, a Pioneer, and it's our latest hybrid that we got left combine. But so normally people let it dry down in the field. We can't. The last 2 years, this has been my highest producing hybrid. This year, it's starting to drop ears, so we had to hurry up and try to get all of this out. By the end of the day here, we'll have finished off this hybrid. I haven't seen that problem with any of the other hybrids, and so, you know, it just reminds a person that you don't put your chickens all in one basket, so to speak. As the old saying goes, that's the reason why we have a variety of hybrids, to spread out that risk, because the last 2 years has been my highest yielding hybrid by far of any of them. And then all of a sudden this year we hit the drought, and it's where it's really has drought issues, especially along the outside of the field. You could see it was really bad along that edge there, because those are the parts that dry out the most. Inside the field, I haven't noticed it too bad, especially where it wasn't so terribly dry. I was going to show you what I mean, except now that I'm walking along, I suppose I won't see any. But every now and then I'd come across a few ears there out in the field that had dropped off the stalks, and they're just not able to hang on to it. They broke down too much over the year. Now, another thing that is hard, well, here's one that got kind of driven on, but that wasn't much of an ear anyway. Here's one. This one got kind of driven in, but you know, and it's a small one because it was off a stalk that really suffered from drought. Here's another one. So every now and then you can find a few of these ears that have dropped off. And the worst of it was right along the edge of the field, like I say, because that's where you end up getting dried out the most. So anyway, that's why we have a variety of hybrids, is because we want to make sure that we don't pick like one hybrid that's been our best for the last 2 years. Like if I picked all of this, I'd have to try to get out all my acres really fast as I possibly could, because they're having this issue. Now, did I know that was going to have the issue? No, and that's why there's no variety that is perfect. Now, on our corn acres where there's iron chlorosis, the yields are not good. Where our corn on non-chlorosis acres, those are running about the same as corn on beans. So we're learning a few things this year too, that when it's that dry, that chlorosis ground doesn't do well in corn either. It didn't do well in the soybeans either. You know, all the yields are down, except at home I had a real good result. But outside of that, all the yields are down. After a rain, the ground like we had over 2 inches, it really softens up the ground. People, you'll notice, aren't taking their trucks and semis out into the field, so we're using the gravity boxes, or we're loading on the road. Today it seems like it's drying out enough that I'm going to try it now. Here we've got a buffer strip to drive on. When they dug out this big drainage ditch, As you can see, there's actually some water down in that ditch now, totally dry before. When they dug that out, all the clay from down there gets put up here. So it's a pretty solid foundation to drive on. So I'm going to take my chances, and I brought the semi out as long as I can drive on this buffer strip and then right out onto the road. So we will see how that goes. I can already see it sinking in just a little bit, but my wife really doesn't like being on the camera, getting put on YouTube, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay, my wife says she absolutely does not want to be on the camera, but she said, yeah, it made a huge difference down in this sclerosis ground. As soon as we got off that corn on corn and went on this corn that was in soybeans last year, sure enough, it's really picked up. We're seeing yields up around near 190 in this area. So we learned something this year, that on sclerosis ground and real drought conditions doesn't work real good for corn on corn. However, it doesn't work real good on soybeans either. So otherwise, we're looking at about 17% moisture, and somewhere between that 170 to 190 through this sclerosis area here. So much better. I guess it probably didn't pay too well to be putting corn on corn for a dry year, but how does the guy know that? How do you know it's going to be a dry year? In this area right here by the monitor, it's pretty much holding pretty good in that 190 area. That'll help make up for the bad areas of the field. And as we get into some of this high ground too, it drops way down, so that'll help lift our overall average up some. I was told once that these farms, when these ditches were put in, they had this buffer strip around them, and that a lot of the farmers just went and plowed them up so they can farm them, because they want to keep that erosion of the soil out of that drainage ditch. And it makes a lot of sense, but it didn't surprise me that they plowed them up, because there's some farmers, let's face it, plow up their ditches almost right up to the road because they're trying to get every foot they can out of it, which I don't always think is such a good deal, because those ditches are put in there for a reason, for drainage and for building up the road to keep the road dry and so forth. So it's really a disservice to actually dig them up. But each to his own, I guess, whatever they can get by with. But all of these buffer strips, we had to put them all back in several years ago, and I hay mine, and I sell the hay or feed up the hay, so that's a good way to manage it. You still make good use out of it. It isn't like you're totally out that way. And it does help, when, especially when we've had this much rain, you can drive along it. It's nice firm footing to drive along. what do you think? Is it a good idea to use a semi in here when it's a little on the soft side? I drove it ahead a little bit before we're totally loaded, and it seems okay. I'm heading downhill a little bit to get started, which will help. Not quite full yet. She'll finish it off this time. And we'll see how it goes. While she's full, let's see if it can get out of here. Oh yeah, that was a breeze. While the truck is unloading, I'm going to end this video by showing you what it's really like to farm in Minnesota. You start out your day wearing one of these, a coverall, and on the outside of that coverall you put another coat along with some warm gloves, because it's probably 20 degrees or less when you start your day out. Then as it starts to warm up towards 80, you swap them out for a jacket like this. Later, a light jacket like this. Oh, and don't forget, you normally start out with a warm cap and then later put on a mesh cap because your head starts getting too hot. And then you use a lighter pair of gloves as the day continues on. That's the joys of Minnesota. Make sure you got plenty of changes of overcoats, coveralls, jackets. Makes your day a whole lot nicer. I'm not all that fond of cold weather in the first place. I would have rather farmed about 1,000 miles south of here. But if you live in Canada, you've got my sympathy. I know it's even worse up there. Hey, thanks for joining us here at our Minnesota farm. We'll see you next time.